Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. Welcome back to Swaroop IT Learning Solutions. Now, in this particular video, we will learn how to configure and manage SEPM, Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager, version 14.3. This will be part 4. So, topics we have covered so far. In the part 1, we have seen the introduction to SEPM product and SEPM server installation. In the part 2, we have seen SEPM console and license management. In the part 3, we have seen SEPM client management and live update functionalities. Now in this SEPM part 4 video, we will practically execute following steps. Understanding and implementing SEPM security policies. So what are the subtopics we will cover in this particular part 4 video? Understanding default SEPM security policies, and then creating a customized SEPM security policy. So let's start. Now we are starting with a question: what are the different types of security policies you can configure and apply in SEPM, that is Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager? So answer will be following types of security policies can be defined through SEPM. What are those policies? First and the most important, virus and spyware protection policy. Second is firewall policy. Third is intrusion prevention policy. Fourth is application and device control policy. Fifth is host integrity policy. Sixth is live update policy. Seventh is memory exploitation mitigation policy. And the last one is web and cloud access protection policy. So let's see each of these policy in detail with theoretical as well as the practical console. And the last one is the exception one also. So we will see all the 9 policies in detail, both as theoretical as well as in a practical node. So first one is what is virus and spyware protection policy. So the virus and spyware protection policy provides several layers of protection to safeguard system from malware and other security threats. So here is the breakdown of each aspect mentioned. So the first aspect for this virus and spyware protection policy is signature based definition. So it detects, removes and repairs the side effects of viruses and security risk by using signatures. So this refers to the system's ability to recognize known viruses and threats based on predefined patterns or signatures. When a match is found between a file or process and the virus signature, the system can take action to remove or quarantine the threat. So signature based definition is effective against known threats but is limited to those that have already been identified and cataloged. Next is reputation based detection. So download insight. So it detects threats in files users try to download using reputation data from download insight. Download insight evaluates files based on their reputations, considering factors like files origin, frequency of downloads and history of being flagged for malicious activity. If a file is deemed suspicious or risky based on its reputation, the system will prevent the download or alert the user. Next criteria is behavioral analysis, that is sonar. It detects applications exploiting suspicious behavior using behavioral analysis, that is sonar, historics and reputation data. So sonar, Symantec online network for advanced response, monitors the behavior of running applications in real time. If an application starts behaving suspiciously, e.g. attempting to modify the system files, communicate with the suspicious servers, or execute unauthorized actions, sonar will flag the activity as potentially malicious. So it uses historics rules that assess behavior patterns to identify new unknown threats that don't yet have signatures or a known reputation. So now our first practical step will be through main SEPM console. We need to click on policies and then we will see virus and spyware protection. Right click, edit and verify the current auto protect and other protection policies. So I will go to my SEPM server and first I will log on SEPM console. So we are logged on to the SEPM console. I will close this getting started, and now we will go back to our step. We need to click on policies and then virus and spyware protection. So I will click on policies, then virus and spyware protection, and you can see the virus and spyware protection balance. This policy is already applied as a default one on our SEPM group. So I will right click it and I will say edit. And the most basic one or the most preferable one we need to verify is the auto protect one. Okay, so now these are the various settings which are defined as a balanced policy criteria. First one is enable auto protect. So whenever the client is getting installed on a client system, it enables its auto protect feature over here. Okay, so auto protect is on. Next is file type, scan all files, scan on security risk, then scan files on remote computers also is enabled only when the files are executed. So it will scan the files only when some kind of an execution happens on network files. This is the scan details tab. Next is actions. So detection of which type of threat, security threat or virus, malware. If it detects the malware, what is the first action? It will try to clean. If not, then it will try to quarantine one. Same thing for others. Virus, first action is clean, next action is quarantine, and others as well. So this is the action tab. Next is notification. If this is by default deselected, but if you can select it to notify the user that whether XYZ file is infected or not. And in then advanced, what are the options? Load auto protect when computer starts. This is a default option over here. Then check floppies when the computer shuts down. Then stop and reload auto protect when auto protect must be reloaded. Auto protect reloading enabled. And then last is when auto protect is disabled, enable after 5 minutes. So these are all the basic or default settings for auto protect. Okay, next is your download protection. So currently it is on a typical node, so neither it is minimum nor it is maximum, it is a balanced one. And so enable download inside to detect potential risk. All these settings are defined as a balance mode or a balance criteria. Okay, again on the actions, first action is quarantine and second action is the first action is leave alone, log only, download protection. And again the notification, display notification. Next is your sonar protection. Again enable sonar, then first risk detection, it is quarantine action, then load risk detection is a log, high risk is a quarantine. All these options are predefined as a balance criteria. Early launch anti-malware driver, again enabling this. So all those options are under auto protect protection technologies. Then there is a email scan option. Under email scan options, enable internet email and auto protect option is enabled. Scan all files, then scan files inside the compressed files. Wherever somebody is sending you a zip file through email, it should scan automatically through your SCP. Then next is Microsoft Outlook auto protect. Again scan all files, scan files inside compressed files. And there is a protection for Lotus node also. All those options you can define through virus and spyware protection policies. The last options are advanced options like global scan options, enable insight, then enable historic virus detection, then quarantine options automatically repair and restore the files in quarantine site silently, so it will not notify you if the file has been repaired and it is safe to again move back to the original location. It will automatically done from the quarantine box. This is a quarantine setting. And use default quarantine folder to store those quarantine files. And in the cleanup option, enable automatic deleting of repaired files after 30 days, enable automatic deleting of backup files 30 days. All those options, whatever we are saying, you can customize according to your operations or a company requirement. Okay, I'm just going through all those security settings. Again, last one is a malicious, how to handle the miscellaneous files and all these things. These settings are there. These are all Windows settings. Same way you can define Mac settings, same way you can define Linux settings. Okay, but remember, this is the first policy, virus and spyware protection policy. Okay, so let's go back to our PPT. So next policy is firewall policy. So what is firewall policy? A firewall policy is a set of rules and configurations designed to protect a network by monitoring and controlling incoming and outgoing network traffic. It is commonly used to safeguard computers and networks from unauthorized access and malicious activities. Based on the information you provided, here is a more detailed explanation of the protection offered by SEP firewall policy. So first is, what is firewall is actually doing? It is blocking unauthorized users. Purpose: the firewall prevents unauthorized users such as hackers or unauthorized devices from gaining access to your computers or networks connected to the internet. How it works? The firewall examines the traffic trying to pass through it and applies predefined security rules. These rules specify which traffic is allowed and which is blocked based on the IP address, port numbers and protocols. Only trusted or authenticated users or devices are allowed to connect to the network. Second, detecting attacks by hackers. So purpose of it is firewall can detect and block attempts at hacking or other malicious activities. So how it works? Many modern firewalls include features like intrusion detection and prevention systems, IDS, IPS. These systems monitor for suspicious activities such as port scanning, buffer overflow attempts, or other types of cyber attacks. If a potential attack is detected, the firewall can take actions such as blocking the attack or alerting administrators. Third criteria is eliminating the unwanted network traffic. So purpose of it is firewall can filter out unnecessary or harmful network traffic, thus improving network performance and security. So how it works? By applying policies that specify which types of traffic are allowed, the firewall can prevent unwanted traffic from entering the network. For example, the firewall might block access to certain ports of protocols that are known to be used by malware or other malicious software. This also helps in reducing network congestion and ensuring only relevant traffic is allowed through. So note on Windows clients, this is regarding the SEP Windows clients. Firewall policies are specifically mentioned to be applicable to Windows clients in your context. So this means that the rules defined in the firewall policy will apply to computers running on Windows operating systems such as Windows 10 or Windows 11. Now we have understood what is firewall policy. Let's verify where we can define. So through main SEPM console, click on policies, firewall policy, and then we need to right click and edit, and we will verify this particular current firewall policy. So let me go back to my SEPM machine, and you can see under the policies I can see the firewall policy, and this is the current firewall policy which has been applied to our sites of SEPM. So I will right click and say edit, and now under the Windows settings you can see over here the rules over here have been predefined. Now these are the already defined rules and applied to Windows systems. Okay, so you can see block IP6 over IP4, and then other all the rules and all according to your company's production requirements. You can define those rules, you can change, you can edit, you can add, everything you can do from your side. Next is built-in rules are also there. Enable smart DHCP, enable smart DNS, enable smart wins, everything is there. Then protection and steals, enable port scan detection, automatically block an attacker's IP address. Then Windows integration. Now Windows firewall will be disabled once you install your SEP, and it will be integrated with your Windows systems. Okay, disable Windows firewall, disable once only. This is for the Windows firewall. Okay, Windows firewall disable message, disable, right? So SCP firewall will disable Windows firewall and it will overtake the other functionalities of firewall. Okay, so these are some of the very basic settings of your firewall policy. Okay, now let's move on to the next policy. So next policy is what is intrusion prevention policy. So the intrusion prevention policy, often referred to as an IPS or IPS policy, is a crucial security measure designed to detect and block network attacks on browsers and attacks on applications by analyzing incoming traffic for malicious behavior and vulnerabilities. Here is how it works in different contexts. So, network attacks. The policy monitors network traffic for suspicious activity such as unauthorized access attempts, scanning for weaknesses, or the exploitation of vulnerabilities. Example given is SQL injection or denial of service attacks. If an attack pattern is identified, the IPS can block the malicious traffic in real time, preventing further damage to the network. Next, browser attacks. The IPS also protects users against browser-based vulnerabilities. This includes preventing attacks like cross-site scripting, XSS, then cross-site request forgery, and other web-based exploits that could compromise the integrity of web applications or steal users' data. By inspecting HTTP and HTTPS traffic, the policy ensures that the malicious scripts or payloads targeting the browser are blocked. Next is application vulnerabilities. The IPS can protect applications from known vulnerabilities by inspecting both inbound and outbound application traffic. It can block exploitation attempts on outdated or misconfigured software, stopping attackers from gaining access to sensitive data or executing malicious code within the application. The system typically uses signature-based detection and behavior analysis to identify known vulnerabilities and abnormal application behavior. So the intrusion prevention policy typically works in combination with an intrusion detection system, that is IDS, which logs suspicious activity but doesn't block it, whereas IPS actively intervenes to stop the threat. Now let's see where we can view this particular policy and verify it. So through main SEPM console, click on policies and then intrusion prevention policy, right click, edit, and verify or change the current intrusion prevention policy. So let me go back to my SEPM system. Let me close this firewall policy, and the next is intrusion prevention. So this is intrusion prevention policy. I will right click, I will say edit, and you can see over here the intrusion prevention, enable network intrusion prevention, then enable browser intrusion, so it will safeguard your browser also, and enable URL reputation. So these type of protection it offers for your intrusion prevention. And under the Windows settings, you can give the exceptions also, that which all ID or signature name or category can be excluded through this particular intrusion prevention policy. So this is a basic and balanced intrusion prevention policy which has already been applied. So you can see over here, this is already been applied to our SEPM by the time of product installation. Now next policy is what is application and device control policy. So application control policy, purpose of this policy is designed to control which applications can run on a system. By setting restrictions on executable files, it helps protect the system from malicious or unauthorized software. So platform support, as you mentioned, this policy is specific to Windows clients. So on Windows, this is often implemented using technologies like AppLocker or Windows Defender Application Control. So key feature, it can be used to block certain applications, allow only trusted apps, and even restrict specific versions of software from running. Next is device control policy. So purpose, this policy is used to manage and restrict which external devices can connect to a system, such as USB devices, printers, or other peripherals. It helps prevent unauthorized devices from being connected, reducing the risk of data theft or malware infection via external devices. So platform support, it works on both Windows and Mac computers. For example, in a Windows environment, you can use group policy or Microsoft Defender for Endpoint implement device control policies. On Macs, similar policies can be enforced using mobile device management (MDM) solutions or security software that supports Mac OS. So key feature, this can be used to block or allow specific types of devices, restrict read-write access, and even set up policies that restrict access to devices based on their type or ID. So these policies form part of a broader endpoint protection strategy and are important in securing an organization's IT infrastructure by controlling the software and devices that interact with company systems. So next step is, through main SEPM console, we will go to the policies and then we will verify the application devices control and application device control policy by editing it. So let's go back to our SEPM server. You can see application and device control, and this is the current application and device control policy over here, right? So I will double click it, that will be equal to the editing it, and you can see over here there are two types of policies are there. One is application control, one is device control. So in the application control, I can apply these many rules over here: block applications from running, block programs from running, and then block access to the scripts, make all removable devices read only. Everything is specified over here. You can enable a particular group or a particular rule according to your requirement, and you can edit it. Okay, same way for the device control, you can add the devices which you want to block and which you want to allow. So I can add, let's say I want to block one device, I will click on add, and the device name will be whatever the hardware type you want to choose, and then I will make, let's say I will choose USB, and I will say okay, then it will add the all USB types of devices will get blocked from here. Okay, same settings you can define for Mac computers also. Okay, so by end of this particular video, we will create one application and device control policy in the further module. So next is, what is host integrity policy? So the host integrity policy in the context of network security is designed to ensure that client computers meet specific security requirements before they are granted access to an enterprise network. This helps to prevent compromised or non-compliant devices from introducing vulnerabilities or malware into the network. Here is a breakdown of how the host integrity policy works. 1. Verification of security software. So the policy can check that devices have up-to-date antivirus software, anti-malware tools, and firewalls enabled. If a device lacks these or has outdated software, it may be denied access or placed in a quarantine network until it meets the required standards. Next is patching and updates. The policy can enforce that the client computer is running the latest security patches and updates. This prevents known vulnerabilities from being exploited by attackers. If the device does not have the latest patches installed, it could be blocked from accessing sensitive network resources. Third is other application criteria. The policy can also verify that the critical applications such as system integrity tools, endpoint security software, and secure communication protocols are properly configured and running. Fourth is enforcement. When a device meets the defined security criteria, it is allowed to connect to the network. However, if the device fails to meet any of the policy's requirements, the system may either block the device or provide options to restore compliance. Example given through automatic updates or the installation of missing software. And next criteria is restoration. In cases where a client computer falls out of a compliance, the host integrity policy can trigger automatic remediation steps to restore it to a secure state. This can include actions like updating software, installing missing patches, or re-enabling security features. So the primary goal of a host integrity policy is to ensure that only trusted secure devices can access enterprise network, helping to prevent malware, data breaches, and other security risks. So next step is we will now verify the host integrity policy through main SEPM console. Click on policies and then host integrity, right click, edit, and verify the current host integrity policy settings. So I will go back to my SEPM server and I will click on host integrity, and this is my current policy. So I will double click to edit it, and you can see over here in the requirements, always do host integrity checking is enabled, and in the advanced settings you can see check host integrity. This is the schedule, keep results of check in 30 days, and then remediation dialog options and all. So if I am going back to my requirements, I can add the requirements over here. As of now this is blank because I have not defined any host integrity criteria as such, but I can click on add and I will add, let's say, Windows antivirus requirement. So any Windows client which is connected to my network should have an antivirus requirement. Let's say if I am putting it OK over here, so this is antivirus requirement for Windows. I can define other criteria like antivirus application that must be installed running any antivirus product, everything is there. Then specific the oldest date of a signature, I will say 1 week, check the signature file date, everything is there, and I will finally say OK. So you can see over here now I have added that my any host which is connected to my network should have a antivirus installed, and this particular criteria is enabled. If antivirus is installed and if the signature files are more than 1 week old, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it could be, then my system will not get access to my network. I hope you are getting my point. So this is a kind of a setting which you can define as a host integrity. I will say OK over here, and I will right click on it and I will say assign. So I can assign it to my default my company site, SEPM site, and I will say assign. Okay, say yes. So this is a live demonstration what I have showed you how to assign your host integrity policy. Okay. Now next policy is, what is live update policy? So this is the most common and most important policy in SEPM. So the live update content policy and the live update setting policy are configurations within security software often used in antivirus or endpoint protection solutions like Symantec endpoint protection or similar programs that controls how client computers interact with live update servers to receive content updates such as virus definition, software patches, and other critical data. So what is live update content policy? So there are two types of live update policies, live update content policy and live update settings policy. So first is live update content policy. So this policy defines the actual content that will be downloaded by the client computers. It determines the types of updates like virus definitions, security updates, program updates, and can also specify which content sources, servers or proxies the client should contact. So this content policy ensures that client systems are regularly updated to protect against the latest security threats. Next is your live update settings policy. So the live update settings policy governs the behavior of the live update process itself. It contains settings that controls how often updates are downloaded. You can set a schedule for when client computer should check for updates like daily, weekly. These are the schedules you can define. Then when clients check for updates, the policy specifies the time of a day or the interval for checking for the updates. This helps manage network traffic and ensures that updates occur at appropriate times, like during the off-peak hours. Which servers to contact? So it allows you to specify whether clients should download the updates from the default live update server or from an internal live update server like proxy or from other sources. So this is useful for improving update speed or ensuring compliance with internal infrastructure. Next is download settings. You can define whether updates should be downloaded automatically or if manual approval is required. So continuing with the live update policy. So key configurations. Update source. So define whether the client should contact a central live update server or use a local server or proxy which can be connected to internet. Next is update frequency. So specify the interval between the update checks to ensure that clients are up to date without overloading the network. Update time. So control when updates should occur, often set for times of low network activity to reduce interference with other business operations. Security settings. So ensure that updates are authenticated and the integrity of the updates is verified to avoid the risk of compromised data. So together these two policies allow IT administrators to have a granular control over how and when updates are delivered to computers, improving security and system performance while ensuring that updates do not interfere with other processes. So where to update or where to configure or where to verify this particular live update policy? So through main SEPM console, click on policies, then live update, right click and edit the current live update settings policy. So let me go back to my SEPM server and I will click on live update, and you can see there are two settings over there. One is live update settings and one is live update content. So we will see both the settings one by one. So live update settings policy, if I am double clicking it, under the Windows settings I will go to the server settings, and here you can specify that which live update server will be used to download the content for the client system. If you remember, in the previous part I have shown you how to configure this live update server. Okay, so this is my internal live update server which I have already specified. You can refer back to my previous video where I have configured this particular server. So this is the server setting. Next is I can define the schedule, enable live update scheduling. So as of now I have given every 1 hour the frequency. So every 1 hour it will check for the live update content from the SEPM side, not from the client side. Okay, if I am clicking on advanced settings, so how user can control this live update session. So allow user to manually launch the live update, allow the user to modify HTTPS FTP settings for the live update. These are the default settings for the user control. And client security patch setting, download security patches to fix the vulnerabilities in the latest version of Symantec Endpoint Protection Client. So all these are default settings for live update policy. Same way you can define for Mac and same way you can define for Linux. So I will cancel this as of now, and now I will go to my live update content policy. Now what is live update content policy? What type of content you can download, that you can define over here. So if I am clicking on security definitions, so you can see all the checks are already enabled. So live update session, once it is started, it will download the virus and spyware definition, sonar signatures, intrusion prevention signatures, submission control signatures, reputation settings, endpoint detection and response, common network transport library, everything it will download. Okay, if I am deselecting anything, it will not download that particular criteria. Okay, so this way you can control what all content live update will download, and I can go forward like this, advanced machine learning, network and all. The best practice is to enable everything. Okay, so all these settings have been configured during the time of production. So if you are absolutely sure that you don't want any kind of an content to be downloaded, then uncheck it, but the best practice is to leave it as a default values. Okay, so this is live update content policy. And step 7 we have already covered. So through main SEPM console, click on policies and then live update, right click the edit and verify and change the current live update content policy. So this we have already seen what kind of content we can download. So next policy is what is memory exploit mitigation policy. So the memory exploit mitigation policy is a security strategy designed to prevent the exploitation of vulnerabilities within software, whether these vulnerabilities are known or unknown. So the policy focuses on using a variety of mitigation techniques that protects memory and execution processes from attack. Some of these techniques include DLL hijacking prevention. So DLL, dynamic link library hijacking, occurs when a malicious DLL is placed in a location where it can be loaded by an application instead of a legitimate DLL. So this policy likely includes mechanisms that check for DLL integrity, enforce security paths and prevent unauthorized DLL loading. Next is heap spray mitigation. So heap spraying is an attack technique where an attacker fills the memory heap with malicious code, hoping to overflow and redirect execution to this code. Mitigation strategies for heap spraying might include randomizing the memory locations where the heap is allocated, or using advanced memory management techniques to make it harder for attackers to predict where they can inject their payloads. Next is your Java exploit prevention. So Java applications are often targeted by attackers through vulnerabilities in the Java runtime environment, that is JRE. So exploit techniques might include injecting malicious code into Java processes or exploiting unsafe Java methods. So the policies likely includes mechanism to prevent such exploit attempts, such as sandboxing Java application, enforcing the principle or of least privileges, or restricting the execution of untrusted Java code. So purpose of the policy. The goal of these mitigation techniques is to reduce the effectiveness of exploit attempts that attempt to target software vulnerabilities by limiting the ability to execute arbitrary code in system memory. So these mitigations typically work by making memory manipulation more difficult or unpredictable for attackers, even if they have identified a vulnerability. So continuing on memory exploit mitigation policy, what will be the impact? So for known vulnerabilities, the mitigation techniques can prevent exploit attempts targeting specific known vulnerabilities even after the vulnerability has been discovered and patched. For unknown vulnerabilities, in cases where a new or a zero-day vulnerability is discovered before a patch is available, the mitigation can reduce the likelihood of successful exploitation by making common attack methods harder to execute. So examples of common mitigation techniques: data execution prevention, that is DEP. This prevents code from being executed in non-executable regions of memory, such as the stack or heap. Address space layout randomization. So this randomizes memory locations where critical processes and data are loaded, making it more difficult for attackers to predict where to inject malicious code. Next is control flow integrity. This ensures that the execution of code follows the intended control flow and prevents hijacking the control flow of a program. So in summary, the memory exploit mitigation policy is a proactive approach to securing software from memory-based attacks, helping to thwart both known and unknown exploit techniques using a variety of memory prediction mechanisms. So how to check or verify this memory exploit mitigation? So through main SEPM console, click on policies, memory exploit mitigation, edit and verify or change current memory exploit mitigation policy settings. So I will go back to my SEPM server and I will click on memory exploit mitigation. I'll double click on it to edit it, and you can see over here enable memory exploit mitigation. So mitigation techniques are application rules. So what are the set of rules which can be applied? So you can see over here it is already defined that which all EXEs should be monitored, memory exploit mitigation application coverage. So these many EXEs have already been covered. Okay, so mitigation techniques, these all EXEs are already been covered over here. Okay, and these are the application rules which are already been covered. Okay, so let's move on to the next policy. Next is, what is web and cloud access protection policy? So web and cloud access protection, formerly known as network traffic redirection policy. So the name has been changed in Symantec Endpoint Protection 14.3 RU2 version. Network traffic redirection was renamed to web and cloud access protection. So this change was likely made to redirect a broader and more encompassing function that goes beyond just redirecting traffic to include comprehensive web and cloud application protection. Next is Symantec Web Security Services, that is WSS. So the Web Security Service, WSS, is a cloud delivered service that helps protect users from web-based threats like malware, phishing, etc., and enforces usage policies for web access. It works by categorizing websites and applications, enabling administrators to apply access control policies to either allow or deny users access to specific sites or categories. So the WSS solution is integrated into web and cloud access protection to ensure traffic is monitored and filtered before it reaches the user, thus providing real-time threat protection and ensuring compliance with company policies. The third point is, what are the key features for this policy? So traffic categorization. The WSS solution can categorize websites and applications like social media, online shopping, streaming services, etc. into different groups, so organizations can easily control access to them based on predefined policies. So access control. So administrators can configure policies that either allow or block traffic to certain websites or web categories. For instance, you might block access to non-work related sites while allowing access to essential cloud services. And the last one is cloud protection. Beyond traditional web filtering, it also offers protection for cloud applications like SaaS apps like Office 365 or Salesforce, ensuring safe usage in a cloud-first business environment. So continuing on, what is web cloud access protection policy? So the fourth point is benefit to organizations. What are the benefits for this particular policy? By routing traffic through the Symantec WSS, organizations can ensure that their users are protected from malicious content, phishing attempts, and malware. Next is compliance. Enforcing internet access policies helps organizations maintain compliance with industries regulations like GDPR, HIPAA. Then productivity management. Organizations can manage and control user access to non-work related websites, which helps improve productivity and reduce the risk of accidental exposure to harmful sites. Now, how this particular policy works? So traffic from users' devices like laptops, desktops, mobile devices is redirected to the Symantec Web Security Service via the web and cloud access protection solution. Once traffic is routed through WSS, the service checks whether the traffic is safe and compliant with the organization's policy before allowing it to proceed. If the traffic is deemed malicious or violates the policy, it can be blocked or redirected to a warning page. Next is integration and deployment. How you can integrate and deploy this policy. Typically, web and cloud access protection would be deployed in conjunction with other endpoint security tools within the Symantec ecosystem. It can be configured centrally from this Symantec Endpoint Protection Manager (SEPM) or similar management consoles. The solution is scalable and can be adapted to a variety of organizational sizes and structures, from small businesses to large enterprises. So this technology aligns with the increasing need for organizations to ensure users working from remote locations or accessing cloud-based services, ensuring both security and productivity are maintained. So how can we verify this particular policy? So through main SEPM console, click on policies, network traffic redirection, edit and verify or change the current network traffic redirection policy. So I will go back to my SEPM one more time. So on network traffic redirection policy, if I am double clicking it, so enable this policy and then enable traffic redirection. So I can enable this particular option to enable my network traffic redirection, and I can specify the method how that particular network traffic can be redirected, through tunnel or through other options. Okay, as of now I am not configuring anything because this is out of scope for this particular lab setup. The next policy is what is exception policy. The exception policy in antivirus or endpoint security software allows administrators to specify certain applications, files or processes that should be excluded from deletion or scanning. This policy can be useful in specific scenarios where you trust certain files or processes and don't want them to be flagged by the software as false positives or interference with system performance. Here is how the exception policy works in context. So excluding applications or processes from scanning. So the policy can be used to exclude specific applications or processes from being scanned by virus and spyware detection engines. So this might be useful for trusted critical applications that are being incorrectly flagged or for performance reasons like overloading redundant scans of files that are known to be safe. So excluding files from behavioral analysis. So the behavioral analysis component of security software monitors the actions of programs in real time to detect suspicious activity or potential malware behavior. So through the exceptions policy, you can exclude particular files or processes from this behavioral analysis to avoid unnecessarily intervention with trusted software that may trigger alerts based on its legitimate behavior. So what is exception policy? Containing with this particular policy definitions. So typical use cases. So performance optimization. So excluding certain applications or processes from scans can improve the system performance, especially when dealing with large files or databases that are regularly accessed and unlikely to be a source of malware. Then false positives. So sometimes trusted programs may trigger a detection event. By excluding these programs from scans, you avoid interruptions while maintaining overall system security. So avoiding disruption to critical operations. In some environments like industrial control systems, certain business critical applications, scanning may interfere with operations or cause latency. So the exceptions policy can allow these processes to be run unimpacted while security checks. Risk of using exceptions. While exclusions can prevent disruption, they also introduce the potential risk of undetected threats. If a malicious file gets placed within an excluded directory, or if a trusted process is later compromised, the security software won't be able to detect it. Careful consideration should be given to what is excluded to minimize the exposure to potential vulnerabilities. So in summary, the exceptions policy is a way to fine-tune security software behavior by allowing trusted or necessary files and processes to be excluded from scans and behavioral monitoring. However, it should be used with caution to ensure that it doesn't inadvertently create security gaps. So how to verify this particular exception policy? So through main SEPM console, click on policies, exceptions, edit and verify or change the current exception policy settings. So I will go back to my SEPM server. I will click on exceptions and this is my default exception policy. Double click on it and I will go to exception. As of now I have not given any exceptions, but you can click on add and then you can give the Windows exceptions, Mac exceptions or Linux exceptions. So if I am clicking on Windows exceptions, further I can define what type of exception I can give. I can give the application exception, application to monitor, extensions like .exe, .msi like that, files, then file access, then folder, known risk, trusted web domain, temper protection, DNS or host file change exception, certificate, everything I can define over here, right? So this way I can manage my exceptions through SEP. Now we have gone through all the policies, what are their usage, how to check practically through SEPM console. Now we will create one customized policy like notepad.exe blocking from SEPM, and we will check on our end client systems also. Okay, so let's see how we can create and new policy through SEPM console and how we can block notepad.exe on client systems. So now let's move on to our practical execution. So we have all understood all the policies, what are its uses and how to check it through SEPM console. Now we will create one customized SEPM security policy. So we will test a customized SEPM security policy. So our next step, through SEPM main console, click on policies and then application and device control, and then application and device control policy and edit it. So I will go back to my SEPM console and I will click on application and device control, and this is my default policy, application and device control policy. I will edit it. I will double click it, that will be equal to the edit one. Okay. Next is through application and device control policy, application control, click on add, which is an bottom option over here, add option. So we'll go back here, I'll go to the application control and you can see these are the predefined one, but we don't want to use the predefined one. I will say add. So one new window will open, add application control rule set. So next step is through add application control rule set window, provide appropriate rule set name and rule name. Okay, so I will just give a name. You can give any particular specific name which actually resembles to your rule. Okay, so I have just given a block notepad or block notepad.exe. Next step is, under the apply this rule to following processes, click add. So we need to add over here this add option. Now at times this is very confusing because here is also add, here is also add, here is also add, but we will see step by step. So I need to click on apply this rule to the following process. I will click add. One new window will open, add process definition. So through edit process definition, under process name, to match, put an asterisk sign, that is star sign, and click OK. So I will put a star over here and I will say OK. Let's move on to the next step. So next step is back to edit application control set window. Click on add from the bottom of the page and select add condition and then launch process attempts. So on the bottom of the page, click on add condition and then launch process attempts. So next step is under add condition launch process attempts, properties tab, click enable this condition and click add. So under the launch process attempts, under the properties tab, it is already selected. Make sure that this enable this condition is checked, already checked, and click on add over here. And now next step is a bit complicated or a bit confusing, but I will explain you over here. So under the add process definition, process name to match, add 3 paths for notepad.exe file, one by one as shown in the sideline figure. Okay, so I will come back here, I will explain you. Now notepad.exe is a very generic file. It has having multiple parts to execute itself. First of all, let's see in this particular machine whether the notepad is getting open or not. Yes, it is getting open, but by which path it is getting open? So there are 3 paths basically. The first path is C Windows notepad.exe, right? I will copy this path first, and if I am clicking OK, it will open my notepad. So I will add this path first over here. Okay, and I will say OK. So first path is added. Now similarly I need to add 2 more paths because notepad.exe can be executed through other 2 paths also. So what are those paths? So I will go back here. Another path is C Windows Notepad. Now you can see C Windows System 32, and now this is C Windows Notepad.exe. If I am clicking, it will again open Notepad. So I will copy this path also. I will copy this. I will say add, and I will add this path also. Okay, this is the second path, and Now what is the third path? I'll again go back to run, and this is the final path. syswo 64 notepad.exe. If I'm clicking OK, it will again open my notepad. This is the final path I need to add. So this is the final path. Say OK. Again it is running. So I will say add, and I will paste it over here. This is the final path. So there are three different parts we need to add for notepad.exe. It is not applicable for all exes. Most probably every exe will have only single path, but this notepad.exe is very generic exe. It is having multiple paths, so we need to add all the paths over here, and all the three paths have been added. I will say OK. Let's move on to the next step. So next step is under add condition, again launch process attempts, actions tab, click block access and click OK. So I will again go back to my block notepad. I will say edit. I will go to launch process attempts, and we have added these three paths over here, right? So one more setting we have to define in the actions. I will say block access. Okay, so this is the main rule which we are applying over here, and now I will say OK. So we have blocked the access for notepad.exe. Now next step is back to the application control and rule set window. Click on the newly created policies test production option and make it production, and click OK. So we have defined this particular policy, right? Just to show you more clearly, I will move it up. This is block notepad we have just created. Now it is currently showing test log only, so I will make it as production, just to make sure that it will get applied on my all the systems, and I will say OK. Now next step is, now since we have changed this particular policy, we need to assign it. So on application and device control policies, right click on application and device control policy and click assign. So this policy we have changed. I will say right click and assign. So next step is select your preferable site for application and device control policy assignment and click assign and click yes. So I will select my default my company site. Default will automatically get selected under my company. Now I will say assign. It will ask me, do you want to assign the application control policy changes? Yes. Okay, so now it is assigned to my all production machines. So next is from any or all systems, client systems, we need to update our SEP policy. Now this is an optional step. The SEP policy will get applied after 5-10 minutes, but as of now I am manually doing it for faster apply. So what I will do is I will go back to my SEPM, because this SEPM system, I will log off from here first. This SEPM system is also client for SEP. I will right click it and I will say update policy over here. So you can see it is requesting for the policy change. Same thing I will do for my rest of the systems also. So I will go to my Windows 11 CL system, right click, update policy. Same thing on Windows 10 machine also, right click, update policy. Same thing on my last machine, that is DC, right click and update policy. Okay, now the policy has been updated on all the machines. I will wait for 5 minutes or so. I am pausing this video for the time being, and Once coming back after 5 minutes, we will test whether that notepad.exe has been blocked from the client system or not. So I'm on Windows 10 CL system now. I will go to the run option. I have already typed the notepad.exe and let's see whether it is getting launched or not. So you can see over here, Windows cannot access the specified device, path or file. You may not have the appropriate permission to access the item. So our SEP policy to block the notepad.exe got applied on our client system, right? So this step we have already covered. Request for a policy update. And this step also we have just checked. So after some time, from any client system, try to launch the notepad.exe through various options like run. So we have already done through run option, and note down the error. Windows cannot access the specified device path or file. You may not have an appropriate permission to access the item. I will go back to another system, that is our Windows 22 DC, and I will try to launch the notepad through command prompt. Let's see, because run is a one option. And you can see over here, access is denied. So the end user cannot run the notepad.exe through any option, through your run option, through your command prompt, through start menu, anything. It will not open it. Okay. So this completes our SEPM part 4 video for SEPM policies. Thanks all for your time. This is Swaroop IT Solutions. If you like this video, please share with your IT colleagues and do subscribe to this channel. Thanks all again. Have a good day.